Hello stewards, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about Chicago's Dirty Dozen, the top 12 invasive plant species in the greater Chicagoland region. This is a list that's specifically for northern Illinois, but the list does apply to elsewhere. The list is total, I think about 30 something, but today we're just going to go through the top 12 and then we're going to go through the remainder of the list. I'll call it Dirty 30, if you will. And then we're going to talk about, in the third video, we're going to talk about Chicago Botanic Gardens list, which is something like 200 plant species. So welcome to the channel. My name is Andrew Hedman. I talk about stewardship gardening. What is stewardship gardening? We combine, we combine our faith that there is a creator, that God put us here on this earth to take care of it. And how do we do that? With backyard conservation. Practical application that we can use in our backyard to support wildlife. So what is that? That's providing a naturally filtered water source, food to eat with native plants, and habitat, which can be provided via water, either in a waterfall or pond, or in native plants. So let's get in the video. I'm going to put up my screen for you, and you may have to adjust the volume because it's going to be a different speaker. But I'm going to flip back and forth between my phone and my computer, and so let's get into it. Alright guys, so before we get into this video, this is Chicago's Dirty Dozen. These are the top 12 most invasive plant species in the Chicago region. Some of you might like these plants. Maybe they were your grandmother's favorite plant. I don't know, but what I can tell you is the experts in the field, they say that these are the most invasive species in our area. So let's review from the other video, the previous video, what is an invasive species? An invasive species is a plant that is not from the general area, that is so aggressive it outcompetes plants that are native to the local ecosystem. That is a serious problem because that results in ecosystem collapse, where you have a drastic reduction in species, especially your smaller species. Some of the larger vertebrate animals can survive, like deer. They can survive. Some birds can survive. But right now, we're in the midst of a mass extinction event. That's what conservation scientists tell us. We've lost 73% of our vertebrate animals in the last 50 years. We've lost 3 billion birds in the past 50 years. This is a problem. We have to address this, and it starts with our own backyards, backyard conservation. Let's get rid of the invasive species and replace them with native plants. I personally like to do that at the same time. Let's get to the list. All right, so we're going to get into the instructions here, so bear with me. I don't like technology. I'm a millennial that doesn't like technology. All right, so let's get into this. So instructions, I'm not going to read them. You can pause the video and read it yourself. The two resources are invasive.org and IllinoisWildflowers.info. I'm not familiar with invasive.org, but I am familiar with IllinoisWildflowers.info. Definitely use this as a resource. Dr. John Hilty, super valuable resources. I use it all the time with my landscaping business. But this is what I want to get into specifically that Bob wanted me to mention, and it's important. So this plant list was developed by a team of experts. There are 6 experts. This is primarily for northern Illinois and the various counties listed. And it's not comprehensive. Like I said before, there's also the Chicago Botanic Garden list. And we'll discuss this in more detail, but there are 2 native species on here. That is black locust and narrow-leaf cattail. We're going to talk about that in more detail in the future. But these are the experts that were referenced by Dr. Bob Sullivan and Henrietta Saunders. She's a master naturalist of Cook County. And Dr. Bob Sullivan, he was a retired environmental scientist with the Argonne National Laboratory. Okay, so first, Chris Benda, he's a botanist, Illinois Botanizer, wonderful resource. He has a website. I encourage you to visit it. He does give presentations, and sometimes he gives virtual presentations with different nonprofits or libraries. So I highly encourage you to follow him, especially on Facebook. He shares lots of photos, especially of rare plants. That tends to be his specialty. he loves orchids. I did do an interview with him on the channel, which was a good, valuable conversation. I encourage you to watch it if you're new to native plants and this movement. Second is Rebecca Collins. I don't know her personally. I've never met her. Don't recognize her name, but she's a senior resource ecologist with Cook County Forest Preserve. Irene Hogstrom, she's a landscape architect, so well knowledgeable. Linda Masters, she's a restoration specialist with Open Lands. She's retired, but Open Lands does a lot of valuable work in our area, so she knows what she's talking about. Meredith Swinka, I don't know her, but she's a natural resources manager with Glenview Park District. So again, someone who knows what they're talking about as far as natural ecosystems. And then Rob Solsky, he's the president of Footstone Incorporated. So those are the 6 experts who were consulted. So one thing that this list doesn't talk about that Bob wanted me to make sure that I mentioned was that these plants are ranked in priority by the most invasive on the top and least invasive on the bottom. And one thing that Bob and I talked about that this list talks about is that these plants are more commonly found up north, so closer to Chicago and in the immediate surrounding suburbs. I live in Plainfield. It's up until recent history has been more rural. So a lot of these plants I've never even seen, but a lot of them we do have. They are pervasive, and we need to get rid of them. So thanks for watching the video, and let's get into it. All right, so let's go through this list. Immediately on the list, so you can see there's a total of 32 invasive species. Some of them are native aggressive plants. We'll get into that in the visual plan. Today we're just doing Chicago's Dirty Dozen, so the top 12 invasive plant species. Number 1 on the list is common buckthorn. This is actually, I believe this specific species is listed as a noxious weed on the Illinois noxious weed list. That means if you have it, you're expected to get rid of it. It's exotic. It takes over ecosystems. So in my experience, common buckthorn is not that difficult to get rid of. However, maybe I've been lucky on my own little half acre. I had a buckthorn growing on the southeast corner of my house. I cut off the limbs, they resprouted, I cut those off, they resprouted again, I cut those off, and it was dead. That was it, no herbicides. Other buckthorns on my property, I have cut the stump and treated it with high concentrate glyphosate Roundup because I didn't want to have to recut it multiple times. So your experiences might vary, but I can tell you with my experience, if you cut it at the stump and then cut the sprouts 2 to 3 times, it will die. That's based on my experience with that one plant. Maybe that plant was a fluke. I don't know. I haven't been doing this as long as other people have, so take that for what it's worth. Sadly, a lot of these invasive species, we do need to take care of them with herbicides. That's just the reality of what it is. Back to the list. Next we have reed canary grass. So reed canary grass I have dealt with on my property. I actually thought I eradicated it. It was by my well head. I pulled it all out and it never came back. So either I misidentified it or it was in fact reed canary grass. But it showed up in another part of my property. So I thought I eradicated it, but I was wrong. This is the number 2 invasive species. So if you have it, get rid of it. The next one is lesser celandine. All right, so lesser celandine I haven't dealt with directly. I have seen it in the wild before. This is one of those plants that has a native lookalike. So the native lookalike is marsh marigold, scientific name Caltha palustris. I don't know exactly what the difference is off the top of my head. From what I understand, the easy ways to tell them apart is through the flower petals. I think Caltha palustris has 5, and I believe lesser celandine has 7 or 8. Just looking on the photos, that makes sense. And then lesser celandine, I think the leaves are pointier or perhaps more serrated. I don't recall the exact difference. Marsh marigold is more rounded. When you see the photos side by side, it's pretty easy to tell, but in the wild, I'm not trained enough to understand. But I'm pretty sure the flower petals is a good tell. Let's go back to the list. You can look at the pictures here. Let's just zoom in real quick. Oh my. Let's zoom in real quick. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 flower petals. Pretty sure Caltha palustris has 5 marsh marigold.
And then if you look at these leaves, they're pointier. Calthopleusters is more rounded. And then look at that. That's what the little tubers look like. All right, guys. Next on the list is Calorie Pear Bradford. Super exciting. It smells like garlic. Um, we're going to talk about this in depth.
So Calorie pear, Bradford pear. This is a terrible plant. It smells disgusting. It's super aggressive. It's number 4 on this list. I have this on my property, and guess what? I don't like it. It's it just comes up. And in fact, a local gas station, there was an empty lot about 3 acres, and it was just full of calorie pear. I would say 95% of the plants were calorie pear. And what did they do to get rid of it? They came in with a skid steer, and they just chopped it up. Well, guess what happened? It came back. Yeah, that's what it does. They chop it up, it comes back. Chop it up again, it comes back. I'm hoping that their plan is to chop it up enough times that it exhausts the energy in the roots, because if they don't spray it, they're just going to have a hot mess on their hands. I have resorted to cut stump and glyphosate Roundup with it because I'm tired of dealing with it. It's a terrible plant. It smells disgusting. If you want a spring flowering shrub, there are lots of options. Viburnums, serviceberries, dogwoods. Those are the only 3 I can think of off the top of my head, but I know there are others. Maples, those flower. So look into native solutions. They're going to support a lot more butterflies, a lot more moths, and a lot more birds. Let's get back to the list.
All right, next one is Oriental Bittersweet. I'm just going to cut this short. I've dealt with Oriental Bittersweet before on clients' properties and my own. I think I've dug out one on my property. But I'll be very frank with you. It's an invasive species. It's ranked number 5. It's a vine. It does have a native lookalike. American Bittersweet is what it's called, I believe. And you can tell by where the berries are. I'm not going to get into that detail. But I do know if you pull it up, the root is orange. And if you pull it, you kill it, from my understanding. That's what I've done successfully in the past, anyways. The next plant is Bird's Foot Trefoil. I have never seen this plant. Never seen it. I've heard about it. I've seen it on social media, but I've never dealt with it myself. There it is. If you have it, get rid of it. Common reed, Phragmites australis. Let's talk about this plant.
Phragmites is an absolutely terrible plant, especially in wetlands, especially in low-lying areas. I've seen there are various areas along the sides of the road where this is absolutely taken over. Absolutely taken over. I know what some people do is they'll use aquatic safe herbicide. I've never dealt with Phragmites myself personally, but I've heard aquatic safe herbicides are successful. Dig it out. I do not know if you can successfully get rid of Phragmites via competition with natives. I don't know that. What I do know is it's incredibly aggressive, incredibly invasive. If you have it, get rid of it. I've heard aquatic safe glyphosate works. You soak a glove, put like a Teflon glove and then a cotton glove over that. You soak it in glyphosate and rub it up and down the stalk. That's what I've heard. Let's get back to the list.
Right, next on the list is Japanese barberry. I have dealt with this on my property. All I did was I cut it out and treated the stump with glyphosate. I'm not sure if that's the best way to treat it, but that's what I did. I've seen it in commercial landscapings, and I've also seen it in a lot of suburban landscapes. Purple loosestrife is a plant that I've never dealt with myself, but I have seen it. From what I understand, if you pull it when the ground is wet, it comes out successfully, and you will kill the plant. That's about it. You can pause the screen and read more about it. Common teasel. We're going to talk about at this point.
Common teasel. This one, I'm not happy about this plant. I don't have it on my property, but I'm going to tell you specifically why I'm not happy about it. Because I've gotten 2 code enforcement letters for weeds. I don't know exactly what someone complained about. I don't know who it was, but I know someone complained about my yard for code enforcement. Guess what the fine for that code enforcement is? $500 per day if I'm non-compliant. I'm not happy about common teasel because it's everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean on land that our government manages. And what I'm frustrated by is I can be fined $500 per day for weeds when the government has known invasive species just growing. Okay, and that's all I'm going to say about it. It's on the side of highways. It's on the side of interstates. It needs to be gotten rid of. So I'm not happy that I can be fined $500 a day because someone just doesn't like what my yard looks like, when we have known invasive species on government's property. Clearly, they're undermanned and they're undersourced. I know our local forest reserves, a lot of them, if not all of them, heavily rely on volunteers. So the fact that the government is incapable of keeping up with them, I can't fine the government. I can't not pay my taxes. If I don't pay my taxes, I'm going to go to jail. So what are we doing here? I wrote an article about this. Give me liberty or give me code enforcement. You can read it if you'd like. I'm going to put it in the description. I'm not happy. We need to call our government out on this. We really need to rein in our code enforcement laws because they don't make sense. We're going to go back to the list.
All right, second to last, crown vetch. I have not seen this plant, to my knowledge, in the wild. If you have it, get rid of it. The last plant on our list of the Chicago's Dirty Dozen is garlic mustard. You're going to talk about this plant a little bit.
Garlic mustard. I have seen this plant on clients' properties. I have removed this plant from clients' properties, not successfully because I haven't been on those properties long enough. So garlic mustard is a biennial. Let me double check. It is a biennial plant. So what happens is in the first season, it grows like kind of like a rosette, and then it grows its flowering stalks in the second season. So if you pull it before it sets seed, you've killed the plant. Yeah, all you have to do is pull it. The issue is it sends out so many seeds that if you do have it and it's been around for a while and you pull it and you kill the plant, it's going to resprout. It's going to resprout. It's going to resprout. It's going to resprout. So it's one of those plants that sends out a lot of seeds. So you have to pull it, and you have to pull it for a few years at a time. I've seen this in forest preserves. Okay, this is another plant that apparently is a problem. I've heard that some natives can successfully outcompete it. I've never tried that myself. All I've done in the past is pull it. It's true weed, so that's what you do. You pull it. All right, stewards. So that is it for the Chicago's Dirty Dozen. The most invasive plant species in the greater Chicago area. Fall is a great time to get on top of some of these species, especially the woody species, because they're pulling in the energy into their roots. So if you cut the stump, treat with herbicide, or sometimes if you spray, it'll pull the herbicide down into their roots. That's how some of them work anyways. Lots of different kinds of herbicides. So if you have these plants on your property, you need to get rid of them because they are true weeds. They're not fake weeds like milkweeds, which are a native plant and they support monarch caterpillars, which are internationally listed as endangered. They're true weeds. They're exotic. They're not from this area. They harm our local ecosystems, which are a problem. So thank you for watching. The next video will be Chicago's Dirty 30. The top will go from plant 13 to plant 32. So again, thank you to Dr. Bob and Henrietta for allowing me, agreeing to let me go through this list with everyone. And for those of you who care about conservation and our local ecosystems, get rid of those invasive plants. Thanks.